Good morning, everybody. Welcome to coaching. Hey, I am your overly energetic coach. I hope I'm not bothering anyone with all the Red Bull energy. I know it can be a little hard to take sometimes. Anyway, welcome, you guys. I'm glad to be with you, and we're going to talk about improving our listing presentations. I almost put marketing. I know we're transitioning our language to be more accurate on how we describe that meeting. So it certainly is more of a marketing presentation than it is a listing presentation. So I understand that. So here, anyway, welcome, you guys. How is everybody? I sent an email out this morning. It says, how do you have a better day? Did anyone read it? You want, oh, okay, a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, wake up early, which means you had to go to bed early. Harder when it's light outside. Tammy and I went for a little drive in the car with the top down, and just enjoyed a little bit of the light rain and the green. It's just so beautiful right now. So what a good way to have a better day the next day when you got outside and just enjoyed everything around us. And then, we should exercise. We got to get moving, and it's really important. I left something out in that email. I thought when I was running this morning, I said, I forgot to say study. It should be a good part of our morning routine is pick something to learn today and that you're excited about that you may need. We live in an amazing time. You've heard me say this before, but I love TED Talks because they're 15 to 18 minutes. I can think to myself, what do I need today? Like, what does my soul need, or my mind need, or do my body need? Or how can I be a better dad, friend, neighbor, professional, whatever? And I can just hear from the best person on the planet. So if you're not already making part of that your habit, I would encourage you to wake up in the morning and go, what TED Talk am I going to listen to today? And they're easy to consume. Sometimes, frankly, I need humor. So I just like today I need to laugh because, maybe life is too heavy and I'm taking it too seriously. So many times, I haven't taken it that serious. But I wanted to share something with you that I got out of a TED Talk about how to be better at our marketing presentation. So I did share this with the in-person group in Salt Lake, but so sorry, it may be a little repetitive for maybe just 2 or 3 of you that are on today. But we're going to be on page 110 in the manual. So we're going to start there. It's got a structure like so. Okay, so page 110. Yeah, it looks like that. We're going to kind of go through the different phases of a marketing presentation. Hi, do you have a book? You do not have a book? Like, hey, let's get you one. You can either email OA, any OA, or Angie, CC Angie, and we'll get you one right away. If you don't have one, we'll get you one. So I'll be showing the screen, Heidi, also. Okay. So we'll talk about that. But I think, getting think about the personalities we need when we go to present. So I thought about 3 different personalities. So write this down. Write down teacher, professor, and presenter. Okay, teacher, professor, presenter. So let's start off with the teacher. The teacher is the person who absolutely loves you and has got one objective, and that is to improve you. Think of like the award-winning elementary teachers. They only want what's best for you. So they love you. Okay, I think it all begins with that. The professor is someone who's very well researched and studied. Okay, so this is where we have the data, the statistics, the contracts, the tools, all the complexities of our business. We're the professor. We're very, very well researched. Our vertical goes very deep. And then the last one is the presenter. So we're able to deliver the content and the information in a way that's not only can be received by the other party, but it can be fluid, like sometimes it's examples, sometimes it's visuals, right? Sometimes I'm going to have a testimonial. I may point to something in a contract, but the presenter is really, really good at recognizing who they're speaking to and the personality that they are and the way they want to communicate, and then adjust to that. So teacher, professor, presenter, love, depth of knowledge, and delivery. Okay, so that's the three things I think we should try to sharpen as we go thinking about how do I better my marketing presentation. Certainly, if we don't have any care or love for the person or empathy, understanding, it's all the professor and presenter look unauthentic, and they have an agenda that's a personal agenda, right? So people see through that because relationships are everything in this business. That's why we lead off with heart and we love the people that we serve. So that's the backdrop, I think, to all of this. Okay, let me show you, let's see, share screen. So again, if you don't have all right, make sure that's coming through. Okay, that look all right, you guys? Heidi, thank you for nodding. So, and I want to do a couple edits to this. So this is page 110 in the coaching manual. This is the structure and the phases of, say, a marketing presentation. Before we jump into that, we've been talking a lot about the factors, and this has gone through an evolution for me primarily because of our development projects and the way that I'm starting to look at things maybe from a little different perspective. Forever ever ago, this is what I learned about the factors, which are three things. How long does it take a property to sell? If you wanted to write that here, you know, how long, what price, and whether or not they'll sell. Okay, so will the property sell? What price will we achieve? And how long will it take? Well, there are factors that weigh on that. Certainly the price, location, condition, financing, marketing. Memorize these, but let's add in right here, let's add features and amenities. Now, honestly, it's not that I didn't talk about features and amenities in the past, but I put them in condition. But I'd like to separate that because condition can be deferred maintenance, or it can be whether it's new, or whether the decor is dated, or it matches buyers' needs or wants. So there's a lot of things that go into condition. On the extreme, there could be something that's really wrong with the property, right? So I wanted to separate that out. So features and amenities. Features would be like bedrooms, bath, square footage, garage, lot size. Amenities are things like lifestyle, like trails, clubhouse, access to skiing, or access to BLM land, or whatever that it is, close to the library. A lot of things could be amenities. It's the reason why someone likes the area typically, so it's often tied with location. So features and amenities. Okay, so those are the factors that weigh in. So when someone says to you, well, how long do you think my property will take to sell? This is the structure of the conversation. Okay, and I think that's really important to memorize. Now, I've said this now, I think, for 4 or 5 straight coaching sessions. So please commit that to memory. Okay. Then we get into these phases. And each one of these is really important. So, but I put my emphasis, frankly, on the first two, and I think they get a little less important as they go. Even though, as salespeople, if we wear our salesperson hat, we really like the close. We want to make sure we get everything authorized. By the way, we don't ever call it close; we authorize paperwork. But really, I think this happens because this was done well. Okay. So I know this is a little bit of a refresher, but I don't know how many of you have really broken down all of this, but think about this pattern. We connect, at this basic level of building a relationship. We have the objective of building it on trust. So we find connections, we find commonality, we have conversations about anything, the weather, hobbies, family, recreation, where do you go? What are you hoping to do? There's an acronym for that is FORD. So FORD is family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. So it's kind of where I learned that. So you can kind of say, well, how's the family? How's work? Where do you guys going to go this summer? So there's just all these conversations happen here. It's probably anything but real estate. Then as this starts to transition, we start to ask, what are you hoping to do? And well, we need to get the home sold. Okay, tell me more about that. Why is that important to get the home sold now? What's changed and how can I have a better understanding? So these are where we really leverage asking good questions. And there's a segment in the manual on asking good questions. So I think that's very, very, very important on how we get clarity on what they want to accomplish. And then we discover the property. Let me pause for a second. How many of you have ever been tempted to give a value of a property before you saw it? Have they ever asked you to say, well, what do you think? What do you think we can sell this for? And you're either you're like standing in the living room. Anyone ever been asked? Come on, I know it happens, but have you ever made the mistake of falling for it? You haven't even seen it yet. If you get an A personality in that room, they're going to go something like, hey, John, hey, it's good to see you. I know you're good at what you do. What do you think this is going to sell for? And you're going to have to navigate that, right? So that's why I think this discovery is so important. And discovery is seeing and knowing what the property is. If you've ever made the mistake of saying kind of a price range, and then they surprise you with something you had no idea was in the property. I don't know. I'm kind of making this up a little bit. You probably would know this, but what if they said, well, this has a golf membership at Promontory or something like that. And you go, oh, yeah, that might have some value. Yesterday in Promontory, I was just reminded of how much those memberships are. They're $250,000 for a membership. So, yeah. Did you kind of just go, wow, that's, yeah, I did too, Mike. So, yeah, I mean, there could be amenities and features that we don't yet know, so let's not fall for it. So we want to make sure that we figure out everything about this property, and that's all this discovery phase. My father, you guys, was an emergency room physician. He recently retired, actually this year, let his license go. And when I was a teenager, I would shadow him often in the ER, put on the scrubs, and it was a really good learning experience. But I was really impressed with how he was at discovery, really, really asking a lot of really good questions. And I remember one time he says, hey, why don't you, on this patient, tell me what you think the problem is? And I'm laughing, going, okay, right, Dad. But he would ask the questions, and then later he says, so what do you think? And I do remember thinking, well, Dad, I think he's drunk. And my dad goes, well, that's a good start. He probably is. And there was if I remember right, there were some stitches to be done. So anyway, the better you are at discovery, the better you are at diagnosis, and the better you are at solution. So make sure you spend a lot of time there. And okay, many of us have been in this business for decades. Okay, you probably already have an indication in your mind about what the problem is. You already have an answer formulated. When you call me for deal doctoring questions, I'm starting to formulate an answer. I'm starting to formulate some guidance on what I could, help you with. I'm forcing myself to ask you questions. So oftentimes I will go back to the basics and say, let me confirm. Like I might say, Mike, so we're on the buyer side. Am I right? You go, right. So I'm going to repeat it all back to you. Okay. And then I continue to ask more and more questions until I have complete clarity before I offer solutions. So make sure that you're disciplined enough in your patience that you get deep, deep discovery before you get into answer. It'll be very appreciated by the person you're talking to, and it sends a great signal. Like what signal does it send to, say, a patient when the doctor asks a lot of questions? What signal do they send? I mean, he probably already knows the answer. I mean, He's likely looked at, maybe looked at an x-ray already. Maybe he's already looked at blood work, maybe whatever. But right, Nisha said that they care. I mean, when sure, we can say we're really smart and we already get it and we've been around the block and we've got all this experience. And so we may be quick to answer. And I think we need to be slower to answer and quick to question. Okay. Okay. Right. They're more understanding. No question about it. Okay. So let's move on to the other phases here. So this is everything that you can possibly think about questions. So now let's pivot, guys, over to page 107. This is a newer piece that we put in the coaching manual. So I'm gonna go backwards here. This is a list of every question that you should have answers to. I'm gonna start up here at the top. And it's like we need to have these answers before we can really move forward on, having the home on the market or accepting an offer. So we're going to answer this question. What's the value? What's my net? This is after expenses. What can I expect from this sale? We need to be able to have some idea about what that looks like so they can give us a green light, right? How long will it take to sell? They have a life, they have a goal and objective, and they need to know, what do you think? And I know, we can look at days on market and pull this, but not every property is the same. And remember the factors. So, and then will my property sell? So see over here where I have core concerns. Well, that's the same as the core benefits back on page 110. Okay, so core concerns are the same as core. See, let me go back 110 right here. Whoop, up a little bit. These should also be memorized. Highest net at closing, the quickest sale or a time frame, the best chance of selling. Some properties may not sell. The least amount of legal risk, or the smoothest transaction, and then the highest possible price. The highest possible price, I put it in here because it's so critical to this first equation. The highest net is the highest price minus any concessions that we may have negotiated. But it's really, they want to know what equity is. Okay, so those are the core benefits, and these questions here speak to that. So we need to have answers to that, okay? Then we move into marketing, and how will my property be marketed? Open house, if when. How do agents see this? How do we schedule showings? I'll let you guys dig into some of this. This is all, look at all this exposure that we talk about. Just the process of the listing agreement and what needs to happen. We talk in the listing agreement, we mention things like this. So there's the compensation. When will it go on the market? When are we okay to have showings, key boxes? Look at, all of these things have to be answered. Then we could look at it from the perspective of the contract, okay? If we look at it from the perspective of the REPC, what we're going to run into, imagine grabbing the REPC and saying, this is the agreement that buyers will ask us to enter into. Okay, this is the state-approved form that realtors use. We're going to see this contract. Look at section 1, what needs to be included and what's not included. I need to know that. Okay, so you're going to read them that 1.1 section and the definition of what is included. This will spark conversation. So let me pause for a second on the, am I not screen sharing? Was I not screen sharing? Oh, was I? Was I screen sharing that? I wasn't. Okay, you guys could say something. Feel free to go, hey, Will, we're not seeing what you're pointing to. Shoot. Try this again a little bit. So see, REPC, here are all the questions in the REPC. Okay. Sorry about that, Heidi. I know you don't have a book. So if I looked at the REPC, I need answers to all these questions. See? This is a big deal. I've said for a long, long time that one of your best tools is to use the forms as a presentation tool. Grab the contract and teach from it, present from it. It will show complexity in the real estate transactions and the solutions you have, okay? So that's where value is created. So in that page 107, we're looking at the presentation from a standpoint of, come back up here. Look at just in the margin. The core benefits, so core concerns, we're looking at it from the standpoint of marketing and the questions that we'll have. We're looking at it from the listing agreement and what questions we're going to have. We're looking at it from the contract and what questions we're going to have. Isn't that a neat way to see it? So if you're wondering, well, what do I ask? Well, there you go. There's tons of questions that we need answers to. All right, I think that will really, really help you. Any comments so far? I'm going to pivot to 2 other points. Any other comments on this so far? Or points you want to make?
I've never thought about taking the REPC to a listing appointment and teaching from it. I love that idea. Good idea. Letting them kind of know what the REPC, even showing them what it looks like. They may be completely foreign to them. And so to do just even a quick walkthrough of what the contract looks like and what the important, you could highlight ahead of time the super important paragraphs right, to make sure you hit. Yeah, I really like that idea.
Yeah, we have right off the bat, we've got what's included and what's not. I mean, what do you want? What do you want to include in the sale, and what do we need to protect? Right off the bat, and that is section 1. Then you can get questions a lot, like, am I going to have to warranty something? And maybe that's a word they don't say. Or am I going to be liable? They may phrase it a little differently. Instead of answering, go to the agreement and show them where that's addressed. You know, how do we get as-is protection in a real estate transaction? Well, that's a great question. Let's go to the section of the contract that addresses that. That's your transition sentence. Let's take a look at, and don't use lingo. Don't use REPC. They don't know what REPC is. Use contract in that sense, okay? The agreement, the purchase agreement. Let's look at the purchase agreement section that addresses that, right? Think about disclosures. So if I'm thinking about section 7, and guys, this should be in your toolbox everywhere you go. Everywhere you go, you take these forms with you. If you're saying to yourself, well, they're in the cloud and they're on dot loop, I can get to this 20 times faster than you trying to get Wi-Fi internet connection and find it in the cloud and then present it on some device, okay? And it's cumbersome when it's on your laptop. It's cumbersome when it's on your phone. It's better when you just go old school, okay? Take this with you. So, because I already have this, I mean, I'm in and out of this thing every day. Go to tab 3, because that's where the agreements are. Everything is, I think I should have a shortcut to the REPC, and which I do. And I would open up and say, there's a lot of work we have to do to get the home ready to receive a contract. And that is the disclosures in section 7. And I could go ahead and start asking questions about this, right? To get more clarity on where are we with this property. So yeah, Kim, I mean, I would do that every single time. Every single time I would use the REPC as a visual aid in my listing presentation. Okay. We're about halfway through. Let's go to Any comments on that so far before I pivot? We're going to go to page 105 and 106. Yeah. Okay, good, Chris. I'm glad to hear that. Chris is saying that Kristen uses that technique every time. And I think that that's phenomenal. It'll help you build value. Remember, when we have a problem and the solution to the problem, we build value. Okay, so sometimes people don't understand what the problem is or the complexity. So they don't understand that the solution has value because there's no problem, right? So sometimes we have to be clear on what the complexities are so we can show them what the solution is. Okay. Okay. Let's go back to share screen. And now let's jump over to 105. I just wanted to highlight this morning a couple of the tips that we have in this. This page is 10 ways to improve your marketing presentation.
Hey, Will.
Yes.
Someone just asked right before you shared your screen where to get the forms manual. So it's in the back office, you guys. But if you want a hard copy like Will is recommending, if you don't have one, talk to your broker. I actually think I'm out right now, so I need to get more next time I come to Salt Lake. But talk to your broker and have them get you a hard copy so you have one.
Yeah, and Angie can put that together if you CC, or either they already have them in the office, to Kim's point, if they don't have them. So Kim, we can get some more for you. I think this fall, you guys, we're going to update the entire manual with the latest forms. You know, the forms change a lot, but the manual is very important. Mine's a little thicker because I have all the commercial documents in there. So I carry that with me everywhere we go. So yeah, that's the way to get it. It's very, very valuable. Okay, so here we are, ways to improve our marketing presentation. I just wanted to highlight number 4, and this speaks to what we're talking about here. It's not just the REPC that we use, it's any contract term that could answer the question. This is going to take some discipline. So instead of answering it, think of where the language resides in the supplementary clause, in the disclosure. Could be a buyer's due diligence checklist, right? Could be there depending on where we get the question from. Think about how to tie in the form and how that's stated to your visual presentation. Okay, so it's not just the REPC. The item number 9 also wanted to highlight. So come down to 9. This is a big one. And I was reminded of this from John Eborn yesterday. He did a fantastic job on a video piece at a very unique property that he has in Taylorsville. It's got a lot of different ponds and waterfalls and things like that. Lots of landscaping uniqueness to this backyard. And it's a larger yard than what you'd normally find. Decent price point. If I remember, it's about $750. He may have already sold it, which wouldn't surprise me. But he spent a lot of money on the marketing. Remember, anything you do in marketing, you save it. You keep it and you show it as examples. And here again, when you have an idea about something to market, instead of telling them, show them. Show them. Don't tell them about it. Show them as an example. So be ready. Either save on your computer in areas that are unique or wherever you want to do that. If it's printed, bring that also. If there's a printed marketing piece that you've done in the past, then show them that. Okay, so let me stop sharing for a second. I told a story yesterday I was reminiscing about a time where I about wanted to give up in real estate, but it was 2005. I was my own broker. And I was leasing a space where Susie Martindale was the landlord. If you guys know Susie Martindale. So she's one of the top agents in Salt Lake. And I was jealous because she drove the latest 7 Series BMW, you know, And every time I'd park in that parking lot, I walked by her car. She was upstairs. We had the main floor, and she was fantastic at what she did. And I walked by her car one day and looked in the back seat, and there were 3-ring binders everywhere. Yeah, I mean, I wondered to myself, like, what in the world is she doing with all these 3-ring binders? They were thick too, you guys, not like, you know, tiny. These were like 2 to 3 inch binders, and half a dozen of them. So I asked her about it one time, and she goes, "Oh, I just keep every time I do anything for a listing, marketing puts that in my one of the binders, depending on what it is, type of property or price range or the type of marketing we did." And from that point on, I mean, this is 20 years ago, you guys, so almost 20 years ago. That stuck with me. From that moment on, I kept every piece. So every video, right? Every postcard, every flyer, all of that are samples. So if you're picking up what I'm putting down here, teacher, professor, presenter. The presenter uses his tools or her tools. We use the contracts when we can. We use questions when we can. We have structure to answer. And we use visuals wherever we can. So instead of just answering and saying, oh, we do, we do digital marketing, we do print marketing, we have network marketing with our MLSs, we have syndicate. Okay, all that sounds nice. And there will be times when you can use just words, but you're better to show them. And there's something weird that happens with this. You hand them your samples and you open it up and say, I was kind of thinking something like this, but I don't know. What do you think? We could also then turn the page and say, we could also do something like this. Then you go, which one do you like? And they go, well, I kind of prefer this one. And then they start thumbing through all of them. And guess what you just said? I've marketed a lot of real estate for a lot of years, and look at all the marketing we've done. That's what you just said. So really, you want to call it a trick of the trade, call it whatever you want. But people, it's like watching a fire. There's something about that. If you hand them these things, they'll look through it. It's a good takeaway, guys. So think about what assets you already have that need to be repurposed. The reason I use John as an example, because he reminded me, he spent a lot of money on this video. He hired a video person to come and put all together. It had to be edited, they had overlays and music, and there was panning in and out, there was close-ups, and it was really nicely done. Well, now that needs to be saved and repurposed, okay, as an example. How many of you already do this? You already do some form of this? Yeah. So bring your samples or examples with you at every presentation. Okay. That's all I have to say about that. I'm going to channel my inner Forrest Gump. That's all I have to say about that.
Hey, Will, Nisha had a question earlier. I don't know if it was answered.
Oh, okay. Hit me.
At what point would you do this after signing the listing agreement? ? Nisha, I'm not sure what you were referring to.
Nisha, can you?
Yeah, thanks.
Sure,
I'm just thinking through this listing agreement and, trying to figure out how long, to make it and how, and at what point you can do all this. I mean, can you maybe give a scenario of when you would refer to these contracts at what stage?
Mm-hmm. Well, great question. Go ahead and mute. I think we're getting a little bit of feedback there. Let's go back to page and look at the structure. First of all, Nisha, don't be worried about the time unless I think I'd ask them to be sensitive and respectful of the time they have, of course. The longer a listing presentation goes, in my view, the better it's going. I mean, I know we want to get, many of us want to get in, get out, whatever. I understand that, but the longer it goes, the better it is. So where does all these samples go? Well, we have connection discovery. We're reviewing, this could be moved a little bit. This is when we're reviewing the data we've discovered to answer that question about the value. And then we have solutions. So this is when we're starting to say, hey, remember all these things we talked about over here? This is why I start presenting what we're going to do to net the most. See? How am I going to net the most? We need to broadly market. We need to broadly market. And what does that mean when we broadly market? That means we hire agents through the MLS. That's what the purpose of the MLS is. Some people don't understand that, but that's a way to hire other agents. It's not just exposing it to the consumer, but it's exposing it to a network of salespeople that will help sell. So phrase that appropriately. So this is where we start pulling in samples and examples. This is a function of, if we do this right and we do this properly, then we're going to net what we talked about back here and with these core benefits, and we start to present that. Now we're just, these last two, we're authorizing it and we've made a plan. We could say discovery and plan. Like I could say, here we are, and then what's our plan? And the plan really is the close. So that's another way to say this. We have a plan. And what's the plan? Remember those questions we had to have answered? When are we on the market? Where's the sign going? Remember all those things? First showing, key box, that's the plan. And the plan is right here or here. I guess we could say solution and close, but this is where we're starting to present the plan. A lot of times we're grabbing a calendar. Many of us do that. We grab the calendar and say, let's talk about a hypothetical. If we can get all these things arranged, we can get the marketing done properly. We can hit the MLS on, say, Wednesday, Thursday. We may get our first showing by Friday. Is that going to be okay with you? The sign may go up Thursday, Friday. Is that okay? Can we talk about where it's going to go? Are you all right with that? When people, another skill set here to do also is when you ask questions and they answer, write it down. Don't try to memorize what they show them. That's important enough for you to write it down. So discovery, answer, discovery, write it down, write it down, write it down every time. And then we're tying that in with solutions and the plan. So for those with manuals, write the plan right here. So I would be respectful of their time, Nisha, but I wouldn't, I'm not too worried about how I'm flexible. Like maybe we do need to say, how much time do you folks have? And be respectful, but most of the time, at least when I'm thinking about my production days. And, look, guys, the brokers do, I think in general, a handful of deals a year, and we should, because if we don't, we're going to forget what it's like to be you. I'm referring a lot of clients every year. I mean, I don't know, a lot, a dozen, you guys, maybe a dozen or so a year, but I'll take 1, 2, or 3 a year just so I never forget what it's like. And every time I go to present, the listing presentation seems to go a while. And that's a good sign. So.
Hey, Will.
Yeah. Hi, Sandy.
Hi. So I have a lot of young agents that don't have the advertising inventory or marketing inventory, so that not everybody has many years of experience in listings. And for these new agents that are just starting out, it's kind of like when I look at my Instagram page and I have 3 posts, and I think, how can I sell myself if I don't have a lot of inventory? It's kind of like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? And so I think it'd be really helpful if you could help us to help the younger, newer agents in how can they market with those type of advertising materials when they don't have them yet.
Yeah.
And should we, is there like an advertising packet that's kind of more generic that we could put together for these new agents so that they can go to their listing presentations, and then as they get listings, they can add their inventory to the top of or the front page as they go?
Look, I think you could grab any sample. I think you can grab any sample you want from any agent in the office and use that. And if I'm a brand new agent, I don't need to go out and say, look at all the things I have done per se. I need to go out and say, this is what I was thinking as in a sample, and I brought one. and it could have Rachel Moody's name on it. And I know everyone's going, oh, I can't present enough. No, you're not presenting another agent, guys. You're presenting the marketing. You're just presenting the marketing. But at the same time, to Sandy's point, she makes a great point. Go ahead and pull up samples, and there are samples. Yeah, the listing book, you can order that too. Look, sitting on my desk is just one of the magazines that we put together. Always have those around. There's something in your 3-ring binder. It's got properties listed. It's got a QR code. This is spring of 2023, luxury collection, resort properties.
Will, is that the hard copy of the luxury guide, or is that something different?
This is a hard copy that I have. Yep.
Of the luxury guide.
Luxury collection.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing. So
it's an area. It's not just Utah properties.
oh, okay.
But any of that stuff is good to have because I
Yeah.
can put my listings in here. I mean, teach your agents. So managers, teach your agents to have samples on hand and grab samples, and don't overdo it. That doesn't have my name on it. Trust me, the consumer doesn't care. So, I'm presenting something that's an idea that our marketing department does. I could even say it's another agent in our office. I really like this one though. Just say that. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. I really liked what John did with this, and this is what I was thinking for your property. What do you think? Right? Because it's Brookshire that did it. It's under our umbrella. It's your expertise. I really, really like that. Yeah, there's all kinds of open houses. There's flyers. I love building samples of the flyers that we can do. If you say, like, get a running start at this, you go, what's the best feature of your property, do you think? I mean, I've already got an opinion, but I wanted to hear what you had to say. When you purchased it, what was it that drew you to this property? And they say, well, it's the kitchen and great room. I said, totally agree. And the view. So what if I had a marketing piece of another property that had the similar feature that did such a great job of highlighting that? That's when I would bring that out to use that as a good visual. And I should be ready to have that. Like, I should already be thinking about the best feature about this property is, and how have we marketed a great room before? How have we done that? Has there been a panoramic view or a wide angle view? How have we done that? What if it's a view property? How would I do that? What if it's close to an amenity where I need an aerial shot? How do I show that? So be thinking about the marketing pieces that fit the presentation that you're going to. Lots of time and prep here. I understand. It's good stuff, guys. Anything else?
Can I ask a question of the group? Does anyone use their social media sort of in place of this physical binder, idea that they say that they direct people to their social media and say, look at what I've done, see how I've marketed other properties?
I think you need both, Nisha, because you're going to have those clients who don't, especially like some older clients maybe who don't necessarily understand social media a lot, or how it necessarily benefits. If you have the printed stuff or, that you can show them, I think you need both. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
To Rachel's point, I did order a generic listing presentation book. It's got my name, but it mainly has all the information about marketing from Berkshire Hathaway. So these are the tools that and when I'm eventually going to use this in front of somebody, here's what we have to offer, and here's our resources that I could use. So I think eventually this is going to be a great tool for me.
Yeah, and Mike, I have the hardbound copy one that I have both too. I have the spiral one like you have, but I also keep a sample to take to listings on ones. Where's my camera?
Yeah.
That was a listing that I did last year. So I had marketing custom make it with, so when I got to the listing appointment, they opened the book and there's their home with their
Gotcha.
name right here.
And I
So
figured once, yeah, to your point, if I get a or when I get a property, of course, that picture of their house will be in there. you know?
yeah, it's super impressive.
Mhm.
And
I'll
I
get that
have
hard copy.
generic ones that I keep on hand, you guys, for if I get somebody that calls me that needs to meet, you know, clearly I had time to get this ordered ahead of time. But if I've got someone that calls me and says, hey, I need to meet like today or tomorrow, and I don't have time to order, I've got several in my desk that are generic that I can grab and take with me. So I always keep those on hand.
But if you mean generic, it's also customized to you, right? So
Yeah, it's
got
customized to
your
me.
testimonials, it's got your history, it's got you.
Exactly. So it still has my photo and my, oh my gosh, I'm bad at this. My photo and my bio and contact information. So the generic ones have that in there. It just doesn't, when I mean customized, I mean, it doesn't have their home and name in the front of the book. Yeah.
That's great.
I think that's the right answer, you guys. Yeah, I think that's the right answer. I don't think it's natural to grab, say, my cell phone and jump on social media anyway, because the junk that comes up as soon as I do that, you know, ads or whatever else. It's just not, I don't think that's what I want to rely on. However, what did you use to create the social media post? Put that in a print and throw that in a binder. I know that's old school. Okay, I get it. I know. But it's a lot easier than trying to thumb through all that. If you're in the, you know, somebody's really into all those Instagram posts and things like that's fine. But you should also have something that's really easy to get to, because there's something weird that happens when I hand people the binder of samples. They can't help themselves. They start thumbing through it. Like they're picking a wedding invitation. Oh, I kind of like that one, honey. Do you like that one? Oh yeah, that one's really good. I like that one. Yeah, mark that one. And then well, Rachel, could you do this one? I'm like, I could do any of them, right? It doesn't, frankly, most of the time it doesn't matter to me. I don't care. We might,
Will?
yeah, finish the thought here. We might call that an alternate close, where I've said, pick which format you think is best. And it doesn't really matter which one they pick, right? Alternate close. So go ahead, Sandy.
Oh, I was just going to say it's similar to meeting in person versus Zoom. A physical book to give them is better than something digital. That's just me.
Yep.
Here I am with my face blacked out in Zoom because I'm driving.
But also if you're meeting with someone through Zoom or digitally or through email, you can have your listing presentation put into a digital flip book too. So it's,
Absolutely.
you've got it that way too.
I'll tell
Can
you
I
what.
just say one thing real quick, Will? Sorry.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please do.
So just to your comment about taking other people's material too, because Nisha, for example, Liz has, you know, a couple of really high-end listings, high-end for Cache Valley. And she made some beautiful videos of the interiors of the, have you seen them, Nisha? I don't know if you've seen them. Anyways, you could get that from her and utilize those. Doesn't matter, like Will said, if it's somebody else's listing, you could just simply say, you know, this is something that another agent, but I loved it. We can do this similar if you like it. So I think that's an awesome idea. Don't feel like you has to be something that you've done in the past. Use other things that other people have done.
If it's video, I'd add one more thing. If it's video that the agent personally funded or something like that, just ask for their permission.
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but if it's something the marketing department did and you're just leaving it with their name on it, I think that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. You know, I mean, I've been teaching this concept for a lot of years. And so I did have an agent way in the past that just changed out all the image, so being Rachel, it was Will Cooper. Instead of John Travis, it was Will Cooper. Yeah, don't do that. You're setting yourself up for trying to pretend to be something that you're not, and that's not authentic, and that's a bad space to be in because your aura changes. It's all that. You don't have to oversell. You don't have to ever do that. You just say the truth. Like are some good samples that I was thinking about that I pulled out specifically for your property. I had this, but what do you think? That's great. Okay. So, but hey, I'm going to ask you guys, don't go bombarding marketing with, hey, can I have a lot of samples? Can I get out ahead of this a little bit? I just texted Jamie and said, can we talk? And I frankly have been talking about this one for a while, but we'll see if we can't get something that's maybe a generic sample group, with here's some potential just listed, platforms. Here's magazine samples. Here's flyer samples. Things like that might just be something that we could repurpose and put in a binder for everybody or pull for those agents who don't have anything. So it's just a repurposing. Anyway, I'll see what Jamie has to say about that.
Hey, I know I'm talking a lot, so I apologize.
No, you're not. You're good.
But I wanted to comment. Last 2 years ago, I connected with a new buyer and they also had a home to sell. And I showed them an example of the luxury guide. And I knew that our newest edition was like coming up. And so I had told them that I could put them in it if they went with me to the luxury guide. Let them know how many views the last one had gotten, which was thousands, right? They get thousands of views. And I ended up getting that listing. Nisha, ironically, ended up bringing the buyer to it. She wasn't with us at the time. She's now seen the light, so she's here. But she brought the buyer. But that was one of the things I utilized, and they ended up. So their home they sold was over 900,000, I think, and then they bought a 1.4. So utilize the tools that we have, you guys. Like that's what they're there for.
Awesome. I love that. And no, you're not talking too much, Kim. I appreciate it. Everything's been great. Okay, I'm going to put a bow on this. Yesterday, I was up in Park City and I told a story about the Kimballs. So I thought I would share that as kind of the outgoing thought today. Some of you are going to hear this for the second time. Sorry about that. But in 2005, I was a broker owner of 7 years and 15 years as an agent at this point of my career. And in a span of about 30 minutes, I had 4 different, sides, 3 clients call me and cancel in the space of 30 minutes. And I'll never forget where I was. I was on 6200 South and 23rd East, and I was on the phone with my wife, and I said, I've had enough for this business. I have spent so much time with these clients, and I'm like, Tam, I can't do it anymore. Like I'm trying to have a good attitude, but it's killing me. Our company at the time dreadfully needed the GCI. I mean, if it wasn't for my personal production, the company just couldn't balance. It was too young and it didn't have enough income from, company dollar from agents to survive. So we really needed it. While I was on the phone with her, I got a call from a number. And this was back in the day that when you got a call on your phone, it was someone who knows you. You know what I mean? Like they called your number because they know you and you knew they knew you. So you took the call, even though it didn't say their name. Remember those days? So lots changed, right? So I said, honey, I got to take this. I mean, I'm assuming it's someone who needs to talk to me. So I took the call. And this is where I was first talking to the Kimballs. And at first it was, hey, Will, you don't know me, something like this, but you know my sister from high school. And I went, oh yeah. He goes, well, we're outside of a listing you have in Draper. And there was a builder that had just got into the building. He built 4 homes, and he built this house called the Serenity. And I marketed it under that name. It was a beautiful home. Today it would probably be in the 3 million range in Draper. It was a cul-de-sac. It was an amazing lot, and it was an amazing property. And he was outside of it and wanted to see it, and it's my listing. So I went, sure. So I immediately said, hey, well, if I remember right, I immediately went to show it, and let's fast forward. Now we're under contract. When I turned it into the title company, the very next morning, I got a phone call from the title company that said, Will, hey, we've got a mechanics lien on this, and it's pretty substantial. If I remember right, it was either concrete or framing. I mean, it wasn't, something small. The next day, literally every subcontractor that you could possibly use in building a new construction home, residential, had filed a mechanics lien. And I was sitting here in the middle of a transaction where the builder was extremely dishonest, was not paying the subs. And the Kimballs on the other side, as I got to know them, the husband had worked very, very hard to build a new business. And they were living in, like, today's prices, be like a $500,000 house going to a $3 million house. He'd been very disciplined. He'd saved a lot of money. His current home was paid for. They had 4 children. They were in their mid 40s, if I remember at the time. And she was just diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer and wasn't given a whole lot of time to live. He had one goal, and that was to give her her dream home. And here I had the situation where this builder was being completely dishonest. There was more details to this I won't bore you with, but it got to be extremely challenging in the middle of all this. So fast forward now, and we are in the closing room for, I think, the 3rd time at the title company, trying to work through getting lien releases from every subcontractor while I've been putting pressure on the builder. I'm a limited agent, and this whole family has been just turned upside down by the news of their mother and the wife not having much time to live, and this husband doing everything he can to have a bright spot for this family. And we worked through it, and we worked through it, and we worked through it. And I remember when it was Pam Miller at Backman Title came walking in, and she said, guess what? I just got confirmation of the last lien release. We can record this. So she said, congratulations, the home is yours. So there was a chair in between the two of them, husband and wife. She moved the chair aside and just fell on his neck. And there was this moment, I looked at Pam like, this is what we do. They were whispering a few things, like, I love you, thank you. And then turned to Pam and I and said, thank you. I got a bro hug, hey man, thanks. And I got a nice, sweet hug from her. And she said, we couldn't have done this without you guys. And then they got to celebrate by, telling the kids. And it was such a joyous occasion for the family and a very, very dark time for them. But here's the thing, what if I'd have quit? That wouldn't have happened. So wherever you are in your real estate career, remember that there's a family that needs you, and it's waiting out there, and it's around the corner. You know the saying, it's often darkest before the dawn. So I made a promise to myself after that I would never let that happen again. I wouldn't get in my head like that. And that when things get really tough, try to laugh at the storm. Speaking of Forrest Gump, be like Lieutenant Dan at the top of that ship and say, is this all you got? Because a storm will break, and there's good news around the corner. So stick to it. You can do this. So anyway, I hope that helps somebody. That's why I shared it yesterday. It's, It's been a very tender memory for me. Sorry about the tears, you guys, but I take myself back to that time, and it was very special. And it's the reason we do what we do. You know, the money was great for the company, sure. But I remember the fulfillment more than anything. And fulfillment's always the better payday. So let's go out there and help somebody, find someone who needs you. They're lucky to have you. They want your honesty. They need your resources. They need your professionalism. More than anything, they need your heart in it. So let's go find someone to help. Okay.